What's going on, guys? Aiden Smith here with the Paint Your Path podcast, and we got an extremely special guest. And of course, always we got the co-host, Mr. Joel Mercado. And I want to give him
Hello.
a proper introduction because, there's a list of things that I can rattle off. We have the proprietor of Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration, multi-million-dollar painting company servicing New Prague, Minnesota. He is host of Ask a Painter Live. He's chair of the board of directors for the Painting Contractor Association, or the PCA. Military veteran, I believe, Army.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then he's your favorite master craftsperson. We got Nick Slavik in the house. What's going on?
Thanks, guys. So that was a very tasteful treatment of my bio. So thank you for that.
I'm sure there's more. I hope I didn't miss anything, but how's
Well,
everything going?
Good. Also, I like to throw in father of four and
Okay.
and husband as well too. That's always a good one too. So no, it's going good, man. Thank you.
Can't forget that. Dude, I'm just a huge fan. I know Joel is as well. And, we're
Thanks.
super excited to have you on. You're at like the top of our list as far as people.
You say that to every one of your guests. Stop it.
Watch them back. Watch them back. Dude, how is life? How's everything going?
Yeah, life is very good, and I'm getting to realize how grateful a person like me should be, especially over the last couple of years, as we've done a lot of work on myself and things like that. And I haven't always been as grateful, but my God, am I making up for it now?
Yeah, man.
That's
I
awesome.
love how active you are on social media as well. It's one of my favorite things.
Well, there's a lot of head trash and limiting beliefs about how people perceive I use social media
Yeah.
because I think I've been hardcore posting for 10 to 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a very simple SOP, which is you capture a moment, you're present in it, and you immediately post it online.
Yeah.
Almost nothing I do is edited. Almost maybe I'll brighten a picture if it looks a little weird. But my SOP is if you're in the moment and something is cool, capture it, throw it up. People don't care about a lot of the formalness of these things. They want to experience things and be present and local with you.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just kind of one of those things. And you kind of don't realize until you look back, like you can open up your Meta professional dashboard and it'll show you every day and then show you everything you posted. Sometimes there's like 14 things in a day, but I've spent a total of 21 minutes that day interacting with social media.
Wow. That's amazing.
Wow. Be your authentic self, right? That's what you're pretty much getting with the post organically like that.
Oh, I'm a firm believer of that. And really interesting when people imagine a day back before Instagram and when people were trying to like figure out social media, there's a theory floating around that people just wanted authentic content that was true to your voice. And we were like, yeah, that seems like a good theory. And literally if there's been one hack that I've done, that was natural to me. That was that was my biological inclination is to just be authentic. Turns out it's a good strategy and it's really what people want. It's not mimicking what you guys do or what these guys on YouTube do. It's literally, if you're just yourself, that'll attract more people than trying to mimic someone else.
Yeah, and I think especially somebody like you who's obviously ultra efficient with life, right? You got the businesses, you got the different, the Ask a Painter Live that you've been present for I don't know how many years.
Almost 9.
Yeah, that takes a lot of, discipline and structure. So just to be able to fit those little moments in every single day is super important. And you'd probably benefit from just like an assistant just coming around all day and just snapping you.
I've never had an assistant for any of this. You're saying I would benefit from that?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Okay. So theory about this. Number one, everybody thinks that I have an assistant that replies to all the emails. I do not. I've never once had somebody else reply to those. I send out 78 emails a week to other painting contractors that ask for help. I don't think anybody, minus a quick employee taking a picture of me, anybody's ever done it. And I do have a marketing apprentice now, but there is a ton of friction with trying to get somebody to understand your brand, your voice, everything else. And yes, you can work through it and get that going, but it's actually more efficient to just run and gun as 22 minutes a day, 14 posts. That's hard to replicate with somebody else.
No,
I love
for
that.
sure.
I do the same thing with my DMs. Like everyone thinks someone's responding on my behalf. And now I'm getting more responses because I'm doing voice memos. So I'm just responding to everyone. They're like, wow, you're taking the time for me. Absolutely. Like it says something too. So I think that's super important.
It is. It's not a crazy investment of time. And if this is the business you're in, the genuine human interactions are what you should be aiming for, not trying to get away from.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's something too, why you have gotten to where you are, like say like the chair of the board of directors, right? It's because you have genuine human connections. Even the verbiage you use is super important, right? I don't want to rattle off how you say it, but like as far as you talk about your team, you can tell that you genuinely care about these guys. And that, I mean, I was watching a video the other day. You have 6 guys washing the deck, and it's like, you're inspiring those younger, that younger generation. That's really cool. Not many people have even the thought process to do that in their life.
Well, it's again something that I was predisposed to do that turned out to be a very good strategy is oversimplifying things. And what you're talking about is our decent human being principle, which is we're just looking for decent human beings. And if you take the whole world of like, what are the core qualities of a human you want? And how would you find that in an interview in this? If you take the whole world down to decent human beings and you tell someone that's what you're looking for and people know that's what you're looking for, it's easier for humans to comply with that than saying, well, here's our 72 core traits and the personality things and the DISC assessment that we need. And yes, you can use those. Yes, it's all fine. But in the end, a good oversimplification helps a lot of human beings. So.
Thank you. I've been saying this for a long time because everyone's asking me about this. They're like, what are your thoughts on DISC assessment? What are your thoughts on all these things? I'm like, I believe great character, great personality, and then transfer skill. And you do that, you're set up for success. So, I mean, you can't lose that touch of people. So I agree with you on that.
Interestingly enough, I'm coaching up my young Doge team. I got this hotshot group of college kids that I've recruited over the years, and they come back every summer and they descend upon my company and we do fun projects together. Wow. And one of them, it's very interesting. For the first time in almost 18 years of running my painting company, somebody else did interviews and hired 2 people without me doing it yesterday. And it was really interesting I love teaching other people things because it makes you solidify your SOP and takes feelings and recall and turn them into actual action steps. And it does also point out a lot of your BS and things that are like, well, we've always just done it that way. Well, why? And write me a recipe card for this, right? And so having to teach this person how to interview another person and how to suss out decent human beings was really fun this week. So yeah. It's interesting.
That's super cool.
I think you have also like the best of both worlds, right? Because you do have that connection to those humans, but you also have that dialed in number and analytical approach, right? Even just seeing your comments, right, in like Facebook groups, you will literally show exactly where every single lead came from, how the data goes up and down, and you're extremely giving with it as well, which is like very rare. Not many people have that in their bag.
And it's interesting in our, I got a pile of industry stats, but basically the access to information is not what's holding a lot of humans back. It's themselves and business acumen. So willfully sharing with that, it's almost more confusing, or you're exposing people to something they've never seen. They don't have a huge track record or experience of it, and then know how to filter that stuff in. Right. So for me, especially as the board chair of the PCA, exposing all the humans in our industry to this stuff that's what jazzed me up. And that's what got me from 0 to 40 people. And I'm just trying to do the same, because you never know how many young little Nick Slaviks are out there just waiting to be exposed to something that will light that spark under it,
Yeah. I actually have a question about that, and it's aligned with something I was thinking. I was like, perfect. We got Nick who can really expose this a bit. We're seeing a lot of young painters in the industry right now, and they're really seeking guidance, but they're in this whole like scale. I want to scale to this large number. And I'm like, slow down, guys. Like, start focusing on your foundation, your processes, your people. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I don't think a lot of people are talking about that so much. Everyone's chasing this number, where I think that needs to be redirected.
I will be open and honest and say that I have been that person for a while, right? It's very tempting when you get in. And with the most love and empathy in the world, I call these people the 10X crowd. These are the people who have been exposed to Grant Cardone, and they're basically just like, crush it, kill it, 10X. Now, I say this, I love this set of human beings. They are the wild innovators. They're the first one over the mountain. They're getting stuck with arrows. They're getting exposed to diphtheria. They're the pioneers. They're the everything else. I freaking love these people, but we have to be careful that we don't just look at the things, the top line revenue and the good things and the trucks and the humans they do. We need to have more critical thinking about what actually comes with that. So I was that, and I feel very comfortable sort of poking that crowd a little bit. I love the inspiration they give the industry. They're doing things that a lot of the 1X people or the 1.1X people aren't doing, right? Yeah. But also we have to temper it, because there's a lot of young contractors like I was 15 years ago that saw a 10Xer and said, yeah, that's it. Sleep is for the weak. I don't eat food anymore. I treat people horribly. You rule with an iron fist and you just crush top line revenue. Everything's about sales. Pile up those vans. And you're just like, well, okay, that's part of it. But learning how to become an empathetic manager, learning about job costing, learning about empathetic selling and sussing out people's needs instead of buy or die, that's also something we should be doing. It's not us versus them. It's take the good, take the consistent, stable, empathetic side, mush those together, and that's what makes success.
I'm going to start using that, 10Xers.
I cannot say that without any more love than I already have, because I was one of them. I love my business bros. I love the crush it dudes. I love the 10X dudes. They're innovators, but we just have to be careful how they influence. No, I won't say that. We have to be careful how we intake what they do, because 10Xers, just like everyone else, doesn't put the crushing defeats and the horrible debt and the things that don't work out and the employee turnover online as much as they put buying 3 new vans. And we're all can be accused of that, and we just all have to be careful of that and how we take it in.
Yeah. Well, did we all meet at the PCA recently last year?
Probably, right?
I think
so. I don't miss an event. So if you guys were there, I was there.
I have not met Nick personally, face to face. Obviously, my first PCA wasn't last year, but it was the year prior to that, and that's how I met Aiden. So, I really love the PCA because it's really, first of all, it's changed my life, and I've been in the paint industry for over 7 years now, and my first encounter with PCA was 2 years ago. And ever since then, I'm like, guys, it's got me into this level of working with so many great people. Yeah. And I advise people all the time, you need to check it out. You need to get educated. You need to be in these groups. But yeah, Aiden, I just wanted to say that I haven't met Nick personally like that. Yeah. So that's why I'm super excited to have him on today. But
also 2 years ago, I can guarantee you I was at that event, but also I am a Minnesota introvert. So I typically walk away from crowds of people. I'm trying to get better at it. So we probably pass by many times. I don't make a lot of eye contact. I ask people to be the better people and come up to me and talk, because I don't have an inclination to do that. I'm trying to get better.
Well, I saw you sitting down in the lounge at PCA in Florida. And like anybody else, I'm like, I'm sure Nick gets bothered every single time. And I know you probably, with grace, are open to help and answer any questions.
Oh, I absolutely get bothered, and I absolutely love it. It's that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Dude, the reason I brought that up is because I really appreciate how the PCA highlights big crafts, meticulous projects, right? Yes. Because that's kind of like we were talking about, the missing recipe a lot of times with these painting contractors that come to me and Joel and say, hey, I want to make X amount of dollars. How can you help me? And it's like, look, there is a fine line between making sure you have good intent with what you're doing, helping families, really trying to make a difference in the community and houses and whatnot, rather than chase the check, right? So a lot of these guys are like, Joel, Aiden, get us results. And we're like, guys, there's a fine line, like Joel was saying. So I think the PCA does a great job at highlighting the actual crafts industry, right? And the actual painting behind it. Because I feel like people see it as like a money-making machine rather than, I'm actually making a difference in people's homes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and a way more sophisticated, mature look at all of it is, yes, it's all those things. You don't have to pick or choose. And I saw that in myself as a young contractor. everything was 0 or 100. Everything was hyperbolic. It was black. It was white. We're either going to crush it or we're not. We're going to be a single sole proprietor with dirty clothes and a loving spirit the rest of your life. To me, there's nothing in between. And then you get around the PCA, they're like, hold tight, young fella. Why are you so extreme all the time? You can do a million things. I have a friend who's got a $15 million company, and they do, homes for rock stars, and they end up in Architectural Digest, but they also do Amazon warehouse exposed stud ceilings with drywall. And it's like, there's this whole thing, and they use subcontractors. And so it's like, there's every time you think you're the best, every time you think you figured it out, every time you think you have a set idea that nobody can turn you from, you meet somebody in the PCA and you're just like, man, I should shut my mouth more often and listen.
You get humbled for sure. You get humbled. Yeah. And, as far as your business, can you talk to us about like how you guys are set up? You're pretty interesting, because when I kind of look from the outside in, I hear some things, 4-day work week. I know I wanted to mention that. And a lot to do with the cabinet refinishing as far as like being the originator. Am I on to something there?
Yeah. So I will always, in my business, we are good at setting expectations. So I'm going to do that right here, which is, I don't think we do many things novel. I don't have access to secret paints, secret software, I shouldn't say secret data. I have some secret data way tucked into my company. We don't have a lot of secret anything. I mean, my God, I'm wearing, my white painter pants. We all buy the same pants right now. Awesome. So I think in what would make us special, and when I bring people to my company and they tour my facility and meet my people, they're amazed at how kind we are, how high our standards are, and how often we execute simple, unsexy, mundane things to a point where it's just mind-numbingly crazy. All the time, every day, simple things done over and over again. And those things accumulate into some pretty big successes. And then you sprinkle in a little decent human being, a 4-day work week, that sort of thing. And it does get a little interesting. Enough of that makes an interesting company. But we don't have any secret software or paint or honestly even processes. I am just very vocal. So this week I posted something. We do about 2 to 3 sets of cabinets a week on average. We have a finishing shop, all that other stuff. I posted a video of one of our master crafts people doing the SVT process, sand, vac, and tack. And this is one of those things that caught fire in the industry. SVT. I did not come up with sanding a cabinet or using a shop vac or using a tack rag, but I am vocal. I post 14 times a day. And when I say it enough, it gets associated with me. Yeah. Just like authors, movie makers, filmmakers, they're not coming up with any new concept. The hero's journey has been the same story over and over. Star Wars is the hero's journey. The Odyssey, Odysseus. That was the hero's journey. Like, it's the same story told over. I'm not doing anything new. I'm just vocal and I oversimplify.
See, but that's great though. That's great for marketing, right? That's great for your company. So it's ingrained into even your clients' brains, right? Because it's like when you can let them know that you do things at such a high quality, even if they are simple, that gives them a lot more closure, right?
Well, and it's, when you do this at scale, I would say oversimplification is a necessity because I am a nutty master crafts person. I used to make my own tools. I used to make my own toolboxes. Wow. I used to blend my own coatings. I used to have this science lab where I would be like, oh my God, if you take the right ratio of these 4 oil varnishes, throw in some Japan dryer and some turpentine, not paint thinner. Turpentine is made from the sap of pine trees. It's got a different smell and a different viscosity and a drying thing. And if you weighed them out correctly, you get this beautiful finish. Now you have an apprenticeship program and you have Young Hope is a young woman, a 19-year-old woman who comes to you having never been in the trades. This is already complicated. She's entering into an industry she's never been into. She's entering into an industry where women aren't typically typified. Here. She's already nervous. Then if you lay on her science, you're setting her up for failure. So how about, as a master crafts person, you go find a single can of something that is the best in the world. They crack the can open, pour it into a sprayer and spray it instead of your magic fakakta system of mixing all these things. You can do that. But if you want to succeed with young people and scale, you need to simplify. So that's been the theory over the years.
I love that. Nick, I have a theory with that too. Is I call it the universal language. So all of my other, like everyone asks me, how do I run multiple painting companies remote? And I say it's the universal language. And I learned something that you posted a while ago. I'd say like a couple months ago, 7 years ago, when I got in the paint industry, I learned Duragi. And we created new systems internally as well with Duragi. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because like what triggered me to say that is SVT. Then you got Duragi. Then you have like all these other terms that we say that simplifies the process for everyone. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so Duragi is a great thing. Demonstrate, observe, redemonstrate. It's a training process. Again, we didn't come up with it. This is from the business world. This is just a simple process that says how you teach somebody to do something. And this is what I did naturally. And I found out that there's actually an acronym. So, I get a little proud of myself every once in a while. Then I come to find out I've never invented anything novel, basically. And so you're like, well, this is our beautiful apprenticeship program. Everybody wants to know about it. And one person from my hometown who's an engineer, a client of mine, contacted me and said, Nick, listen, I know and love your company for years. I've known you since you were a kid. What you're describing is a universal training process that every other business uses. And there's actually an acronym and there's books written about it and there's people who like teach it. And I was like, oh, I thought I was like this super innovator. And turns out teaching human beings is not that novel. So Duragi is an acronym. Also, I would be lying to you if I didn't say that some of the military stuff didn't rub off on me, but not in the way that most people think. I learned about standard operating procedures in the military. I learned about acronyms in the military. There is a mind-numbing amount of this stuff to the point where when you talk to somebody who is currently in the military or fresh out, they'll start using all these terms, JSOC, SOP, MRC, AR-15, things like that.
Right.
And all they do is speak in acronyms and nobody understands them except for that. So with universal language, when you have such a complicated, weird job like being a soldier in the military, universal language is the only way that works. If you had to say the words that went into JSOC, JS, or, all that other stuff, you'd never get a sentence out. It'd be 72 words long every time. So I'm a huge fan of that. And I think naturally, as we scale, you're either forced to do stuff like that or you're going to fail miserably if you don't. It's just too cumbersome.
I love that. 10-4.
Yeah.
No, perfect example.
I'm in. How did you get into painting? You probably answered this before, but for our audience.
Yeah. So dad forced me when I was 10 years old, give or take. And so 10 to 18, basically indentured servant for the family business. And then military after that. College after that, thank you, federal government, for most of it. They still made me pay for some of it. And then, came back to rejoin the family business. And the old man told me there's no place for you. And that was the advent of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company almost 18 years ago.
Wow. So you started your own company aside from the family business?
Yeah. So I live in a town of 8,000 people. It's a farm town. And there's 2 Slavik painting companies up until a couple of years ago.
Wow. Really?
Yep.
I did not know that. Oh my goodness.
Yep. And there's a really cool story in all this, which is in my experience over the last 33 years of growing up in this industry and then becoming a professional and then leading from a 140-year-old nonprofit, I've experienced just about every single human's experience with this industry. All my friends are people who are a vast range of humanity that have come in like me, unlike me. We have econ majors, finance majors, insurance people who have left those industries to come here. We've had people who were forced to come into this industry as kids. And I've encompassed everybody's experience. And I think that's why I feel comfortable speaking from a lot of this stuff, which is if you think you're unique, if you think you have a unique experience that nobody else has, I probably lived a portion of my life like that. And I can empathize with you on a lot of that stuff. So,
yeah. No, I think one of my favorite parts of when you did your speech at PCA was you went into the history of it. And the first ever PCA gathering, I was like, wow, this is dope.
I was planting trees on the back of my property the other day, and I was listening to Joe Rogan had a guest on, Ken Burns, the documentarian, and Ken Burns was explaining a lot of things very well. He's basically saying everything we ever know about everything we ever need to know about ourselves is basically the history. And the history of the United States is the most unique history of any country of any time on the planet. And so same thing, understanding our history, especially the history of the PCA, the 140-year-old nonprofit, which has its origins over 200 years ago. That explains every single thing we're doing now. Like you heard me say at the PCA thing, if you guys think we're experiencing a new and novel problem, the problem in the late 1800s was there wasn't enough Polish immigrants for the labor force, right? They were complaining about the lack of Eastern European immigrants that were coming over. It's like, who's going to do all this work if the Polish don't come over, right? And they're complaining about standards in the industry. And the most interesting, and I sit on the board of directors with an executive from Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams, and I presented this in a private board meeting. I said, guys, you want to know the most interesting complaint of our industry in the late 1800s? It was you guys were introducing pre-mixed paint and everybody thought you're going to rob all the value that we have. We used to grind our own pigment. We used to put linseed oil in and lead dust. And you, Sherwin and Benjamin Moore, are taking away all our value. Homeowners, anybody can now go get a can of paint. You can call yourself a professional painter. You don't have to know how to mix these things. That was the biggest complaint. The industry was trying to protect itself from pre-mixed paint.
Wow.
So,
wow.
But that informs us. Tell me, go on Tanner Mullen's Facebook group. Go on any other Facebook group of painters now. The complaints are the same. Just substitute Polish immigrants for another group. Substitute pre-mixed paint for another thing. Technology. It's all the same complaints. Humans are humans, right?
That's crazy. And that's crazy perspective to kind of live your life with too, you know? Because the more you get educated, the more you look at things differently. So, I mean, it kind of just speaks to you being in that position with that knowledge, being chair, right? Being able to talk to so many different people and speak to their experiences and really understanding it as well. That's super important. Where do you see like the PCA going in the next, decade or so, or what does that look like?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know if
I am the fosterer and parent of the strategy and vision for this 140-year-old nonprofit, along with the rest of my board. But as I sit in the chair position, my main duties are holding the operations team, which is our executive director and all the employees and contractors of the PCA, but also being the voice that guides the discussions that create the vision and strategy. So a really unique position that sometimes surprises people is that I don't vote. I have a vote. I do not vote on most things because I only act as the tiebreaker. I'm there to facilitate the conversations that will move us in the way that I think will do diligence to this 140-year-old nonprofit. So this is my 6th and final year of eligibility for the board. When I came on, it was very clear to me that we needed to address diversity, data and feelings. I got introduced to a stat that said 63% of our industry was Spanish speaking. And when I looked around the board of directors and the rest of these events, I did not see 63% Spanish speakers. And so immediately I went to my friend Juan Vasquez, recruited him for the board and said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You need to tell me what you and Latinos and Spanish speakers need here. And that was such a success. I started looking around like, who else is underserved? And we're like, how about 51% of the population, women?
Yeah.
And you're like, and then I got introduced to another crazy stat. And this is why I love the data and the feelings. I think it might've been Sherwin-Williams who presented me with some stats. They have a very rigorous, women in business sort of thing. They have groups within Sherwin that foster the women executives and managers and leaders. And they were saying that we are one of the only industries, not only just trades, only industries where there's perfect wage parity. So if you take an average woman in the painting industry and an average man, they make the same amount of money. It's one of the only industries in the United States where you can say that. Not in accounting, not in management, not in technology, not in any of that stuff. Wage parity. So if you're a woman and you want to get rid of that 70 cents on the dollar, our industry's doing it pretty well. You would never guess it, but that's a stat. So to me, initially, it was like low-hanging fruit. We're going to go for the diversity, that sort of thing. Also, what really jazzed me up over the years is human connection, right? And we had painters training, we had Overdrive, we have all this podcast, we have all these other wonderful things that we all consume. But to me, I made lifelong friends in person. So we got a brand new executive director And on her first day, I said, you are going to do 4 new events this year. So you need to find locations, hotels, and everything else. And she is like, that is a lot of work. And I'll say, this is the vision and strategy. And you took this job knowing that you have a board full of entrepreneurs and we're going to do big, crazy things. For 1 year, we're going to 10X it. Then we're going to cool it back down to about a 1.1X after that. But this executive director created Women in Paint, Spanish, PCA and Espanol. We redid our commercial event and we redid a residential event. We even added another one this year, the craftsmanship event.
Wow.
That's on top of Expo. So for me, it was clear those things. Just like a presidential candidate, you come in with an initiative. To me, it was foster and support the humans that aren't being supported and human connection. We could have done a million other things, right? And to me, it's like, if you're going to have a certain amount of time, you need to pick something and be effective. Now, there's 10 other things that the board is talking about, and we are prepping the next 2 chairmen to take over some of those things. So that's where it's gone. That's where it's been into the future. Sorry, I'm being long-winded. You knew what you were doing when you got me on this podcast. I do 2-hour-long Ask-A-Painters without taking a breath. So where we're going, we just started a education alignment initiative. We have a retired entrepreneurship professor who knows our industry, who is engaged in a multi-year effort to take every single bit of content, education, data, videos, audio in our industry, align it in a college curriculum so that all the events, all the offerings through the PCA are not just, oh my God, here's stuff. Dig through the stuff, dig through the stuff. And now it's like, here's tracks, here's lines, and it progresses like a college education. There's, I forget what they're called, the basic classes, entry-level stuff. There's the 101s, and then it advances to other stuff. And if you own a $350 million 9-state painting company, there's going to be a track for you too. If you're a single sole proprietor who's scared shitless of this entire industry, there's a track for you. It's all there.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. It's amazing
work. Where it's going.
Love it.
Nah, that's amazing work.
I want to hit a topic of mindset. If that's okay. If we could change it a little bit. Nick, what are your thoughts on, I'm getting a lot of people when I coach clients one-to-one right now, they were mentioning like the economics right now. Like, you know, what's the lead generation looking like for you, Joel? What is your pulse and stuff like that? And I think a little bit differently. I was taught, I didn't come from painting. I came from a whole different background. And I was always taught you create your season essentially. What are your thoughts on the mindset right now, especially in our industry, of the economy and how to work with the younger group and getting them to understand the mindset of how you can still grow your business?
So I've devoted the last 1.5 to 2 years to this, especially being at a national level, trying to guide the discussion. My entire experience with this industry is that there is, what's the opposite of an abundance mindset?
Scarcity.
There's been a large, and I don't think this is unique to our industry, but there's a huge scarcity mindset, and there's a below the line versus above the line thinking, which is when something happens to you, you either take ownership, which is above the line, or you blame, excuse, deny, below the line. And that's that's part of the decent human being system. But it's also, you have to understand that the majority of painting businesses are started by employee painters who can't find a good place to work, so they start their own business. Coming along with the employee mentality is sometimes a scarcity mindset where things happen to you, not you happen to them. This is not me saying these people are bad people or stupid or lazy. This is me saying I was one of them. I see this around me, right? It's a product of our industry not having enough professional painting contractors to employ these people and take care of them. So mindset is everything. And the biggest thing that I see in the industry, especially now, is that the economics have changed, but not in the way people think they are. Everybody, for the last 15 years, we've been threatened with a recession, right? Hasn't happened yet. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You can call different things recession. I go by the clinical version, the 2 quarters of negative, this and that. Technically, we haven't been in one, but every single painting contractor is basically blaming everything that happens to them on things that are outside of the world. A war in Ukraine, a political election, the economy, consumer confidence, debt, inflation. And listen, with love, guys, with love, every time I get that frantic message from a painter, I do find myself getting a little spicy, which is, Nick, It's the inflation. It's inflation. I'll say, just tell me what inflation is.
Yeah.
Just tell me what inflation is. I'm so sick of these conversations. If you can explain what inflation is, if you can explain how the 30-year mortgage is basically dictated by the 10-year bond in the United States government, go ahead. And you might be able to trace that back to your company. But for my company, I can't find any externalities that affect this. Now, having said that, I went on this multi-year look into macro and outside economics because 23 to 24, I saw a 50% decline in leads at the same time of the year. And to me, that was like, all right, here it is. Maybe this is finally an externality, a recession that's hitting us. But what I found out through basic cursory understanding of economics and talking to my friend Jason Paris, who's an actual economist, I found that the economy was not as good, but we weren't going into a bad economy. We were coming down from an irrational high of COVID.
Yeah.
And so I was averaging 80 leads a week in the spring in 22 and 23. And then in 24, it was like 43, 45. And I was like, the earth is burning down. That was a natural reaction. Obviously, I don't get on Ask a Painter and say, sell everything. It's all done. Our industry's screwed. I don't get on there, but it's like, okay, let's take a look at some data. I went back a whole bunch of years and I found that COVID, we were coming down from this irrational high. COVID was a monster spike in GDP and leads and demand for what we do. And when it felt like we were coming down, we're sliding down the side of a inflated high. So for me, the whole theory, my theory was we're going back to a normal economy where business basics count. You constantly have to put effort towards leads, constantly put effort towards labor, and then towards your own management. I think we've been in a 15-year period where leads were very easy, labor was very hard, and then COVID happened, and it just, it put Ozempic in this. It put steroids in this. It was like, if you thought there was easy leads before, I had 4x demand during COVID. And I just struggled like hell, like everyone else, to find people. We did it, but it was a hell of a lot of work. And then it kind of righted. So we saw an irrational thing over 15 years, spike even more irrationally because a global pandemic. And now we're going back to normal. And if you look at the gross domestic product of the United States and erase COVID, where we are with GDP right now is in a direct trend line to where it was in 2019. If you erase the memory of COVID, we're literally on the same path and it would have been the most vanilla thing. But we were feeling coming down from the irrational high. So business basics wins all the time, especially now.
And if you guys want to, learn this stuff or know, before the podcast, he actually presented this graph at PCA, and it was super interesting to see because I felt the same way. Like in COVID, we run ads and cost per lead was like $15. We're like, oh my gosh, we're balling out. And now we're at like 40, 50, and it's like, okay, that's more reasonable for what that platform offers. And kind of speaking to like leads and marketing, I know you have an amazing name down in New Prague. What does marketing look like for Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration?
Yeah, if I've been honest, I've only really gotten serious with paid marketing over the last 5 years, only because I had to. The business just outstripped what we could do naturally, right? Just like every other business. The only difference is we took my business to about 1.5, 1.7 before we needed paid because the Slavik name has been around for 50 years in this town. And at that point, I'd been operating heavily for 10 years and we do amazing client care. So we have anywhere between 35 and 40% of all of our leads and completed jobs comes from word of mouth, repeat, and referral. So we start with a base of that. And we'll probably keep doing 1.5, 1.7 in just that stuff that comes in. And then the rest, I very quickly found out it outstripped. So I started off with very simple strategies of paying for leads early on. What I did was I picked a single source and I wanted to shovel money into it and not use any of my effort because it's like, please, I just need somebody to solve this for me. Horrible idea, never works. Don't ever do that. So then what I found out is, okay, we got to diversify this over multiple sources. We need to look at it regularly. And if something sucks, we take that money and move it somewhere else. And what the theory of my marketing now is I think people come to us in 11 different ways, some paid, some unpaid. And what we look for are trends in the success ratios in how many of these things become leads, how many become estimates, and how many become completed jobs. And again, we do very well with marketing. We are under budget with marketing and we have more leads than we need. We have more opportunities than we need in a time where everybody's struggling with it. It's not because I have a secret platform. I don't even know the Google algorithm. You guys don't either. There's not even Google employees who understand the Google algorithm. What we do is we look at leads every single week. And what our strategy is, we want to spend down. We want to do the least amount of spending in each of these 11 categories. And we can prove with the basic things that we do that after a certain point of spending up, you don't get one more lead. And then at that point, we have got all the leads for the dollars in that. Now we shift our money over to the next channel and we spend up until we don't get one more lead. But that changes though. The more you do it, the more this stuff becomes effective. That's why we look at it every week. So we're constantly allocating like the flow of money over those things. So, and again, it sounds complicated. You're counting up the people who contact you and asking them where they hear you from, and then putting that on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then actually looking at it.
And how would you give it, like, would you give advice to somebody, or how would you, if they wanted to get more referrals or word of mouth clients? Because a lot of people think it's just pay to play. Oh, I need to run ads. These marketing companies have been running rampant, just left and right, coming out the woodworks.
Yes, they have.
Can you speak to getting organic leads, maybe word of mouth, and building that and what that looks like?
Oh yeah. So I start a lot of marketing conversations with asterisk. Slavik has been associated with painting for 50 years. I will not discount that. I will not discount that at all. So I build on a base of that. I've also been operating for almost 18 years. I've built on a base of that, right? Yeah. There are 3 things you can do to solve a problem, any problem in any business. You can solve it with money, you can solve it with time, or both, right? And typically my advice to people is different. If somebody calls me and they have a $10 million painting company and they need more leads, it's a much different answer than a sole proprietor who started 3 months ago. Sole proprietor 3 months ago has way more time than money. So it's pretty easy. You're going to get out there and use your time to get this stuff, right? And you're going to continue to use your time till your business builds to the point where leads are now the constraint. Then you're going to apply money. With a $10 million business, you already have a sophisticated system. And now we can get into the deep analytics of, if you have a street team, how do they dress and what do they say and what neighborhoods, and do they go to every house or not this house, and what's the frequency, and what, you can actually get into the nitty gritty, but initially it's more like there are things you can do. The biggest piece of simple data I can give people, which they kind of don't want to hear, is we do a reactivation thing in the winter where I take my monstrous list of completed jobs. We do 500 to 600 jobs a year. I basically sit down my 6-person leadership team and I say, we need 10 reactivations a day from you, which means the SOP is, here's somebody, we've already been in their house. You will call them first. You will not email them first. You're not going to take my 500 people and BCC these people and say, hey, who wants another job? Right. That is not what we're here to do. You're going to call them first. You're going to thank them for their trust. You're going to ask them if they want a free estimate, and then thank them for their trust again. Whether you talk to them or not, you follow up with an email that says either great to talk to you on a phone, or I left you a voicemail. Thank you for your trust. Would you like a free estimate? 7% return on that. So if we make 100 reactivations, we'll schedule 7 estimates.
Nice.
That's even in my business. I have a medium to small business, right? There are times in the peak period where we don't have enough time. Right now, the peak of my marketing spend and outreach is going on right now. We use more money than time, although we do have the street team. In the winter, we have a lot more time than money. So I take my 6-person team and now we make reactivation. So even in larger semi-professional companies, we're not always just going to spend money. The arc of the season will tell you when to use effort and money and both.
Wow. Love this.
Well said.
People also hate making reactivations. Listen, people hate making cold calls. I bugged out my estimators a couple of years ago where we started making commercial cold calls, and they found anything to do besides that, right? Yeah. This is the nicest version of a cold call. These are humans we already know. They already know. They estimated this job. They sold it. Our painters were in their house. Humans still don't want to do this. It's not because they're bad people. It's just not their favorite thing on earth to pick up a phone and call somebody and ask them for something. So it takes a lot of management on my end to get these things done. But 7% return on investment for time you're already spending is great. And I love it.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because I just literally on a call the other day, I was like, get rid of the dialogue in your mind and start dialing. Yeah. Right. Because a lot of people do this in the wintertime. They start to go, well, I don't have enough leads. And I like to show people I come from a very old school sales background. We used to do pre-sales, and I didn't have the luxury to get leads. So we had a door knock. We had to call the yellow book.
Make them yourself.
Yeah, they don't even know what the yellow book is. I'm like, trust me. Like,
I still know. Joel,
yeah.
thank you.
The theory is this, right? I hired a new sales rep, and I want to just kind of piggyback what you just said, Nick, is that I hired a new sales rep, and I told him, hey, I've got 5 years of callbacks I want to give you. And just start dialing phones, introduce yourself, and just tell them who you are. Thank you for your business in the past. Is there something that we can do? Literally, on average, 2 sales a week, just off that list from years ago.
Wow.
And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. And I'm like, guys, you're not only doing your customer service, right? Because you're checking in on them, seeing how you can qualify and help them out again. But I love that you say reactivation. Not a lot of people talk about these things. No. I think it's important because it's not even just a sale. It's also about customer service. How are you doing? What can we do?
You're making a touch again. That's what marketing is. Like when I form my marketing plan for 2025, I do the same thing. I call up my 5 to 10 friends in the industry, my PCA members who are 3 to 4 to 10x bigger than me. And I just say, because I've earned all this goodwill, I just say, tell me what you're doing and what's your theory. And then I ask a lot of probing questions. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you do the alternative? And I synthesize all these 5 to 10 marketing plans and then use them for my own. Yeah. And that's basically what we do. And the one thing that stuck out with me is that all of the data of what I just told you guys about 22, 23 versus 24, all of the companies who are way bigger than me were feeling that too. And then we started really swapping data. What are you seeing on this days? When it's sunny this week, what happens with the leads? When it's cloudy this week? And what are you seeing with after school or spring break? And we started swapping this deep amounts of data here. And the thing that emerged from them was concentrated areas, multiple hits, layering forms of marketing. So you have a door hanger, you have a flyer, you have a meta ad, you have all these other things, but they're getting hit from multiple areas in there. And companies much bigger than me were making their area of marketing smaller as they went bigger. And I noticed this more than a few times with these companies. So that was my strategy too. We went from 13 zip codes to 5, and we're getting more leads for the same amount of money. So that's what the PCA friends are for.
Yeah, that's huge.
I'm interested because we're talking a lot of, it sounds like you do a lot of planning, right? Which means a lot of meetings, and a lot of people think they can just kind of, maybe not meetings.
Not so many meetings.
Okay. So like there are guys that think that I just have to produce, I have to get out there, I have to just figure it out, which is one part. How important is the planning aspect of it and kind of reviewing of all of these things?
Yeah, I'll say obvious it's important, but I do want to commiserate with people who are like, I just wrote about this morning in my weekly writing assignment about there's always something to do, right? Yeah. And it's never going to end. If you do this right, there's even more things to do. So I just want to empathize and commiserate with a sole proprietor, because I was one, where you hear people like us say, you need to plan, you need to take time to work on your business. But you're also looking at these very critical things, and you're the only one that can do them, like paint this house, and you need money coming in to pay for your mortgage. I want to empathize that is a true feeling. That is a true thing that you need to do that. The truth about being a business owner, though, is that you're going to need to paint for 40 hours a week, and you're also going to need to put in another 20 to grow your business all the time. And the 20 is a bet. And if you don't want to put forth 20 hours, if there's not a direct return, you're not a business owner. And that's just how it goes. Yeah. And this is me just being honest, right? And so it is that thing where you do need to take that time to do it. The planning is very important, but you also need to accomplish the things that will keep cash coming in. But if you ever want to grow your business, you don't do it by keeping cash coming in. You do it by all the extra things around it. And that's our investment in this. You can invest in it with money or with time. And again, we go back to single sole proprietor Nick had a hell of a lot more time than money. And so I was going to put in my 20 to write the SOPs and figure out marketing and call previous clients to do this stuff. That's just how it goes. That's if you want to be a business owner, you will never in the history of your time have to stop putting effort and money towards solving leads and labor. It just is what it is. It's never solved.
Yeah. Well said. And what is Ask a Painter Live?
Oh, it's this little show on the internet.
Little show?
No, so Ask a Painter Live was actually we just came upon the 9-year anniversary. I think it was a week or two ago. Nice. It's a weekly live show on all the social media channels. And I've broadcasted for, this afternoon, I'm doing my 470th episode. So that's 470 weeks without missing a beat. I've broadcasted everywhere. I think we've only had 3 pre-recorded episodes. One was when I was in a float plane in the middle of Canada where there isn't even another human. So I had to record something before I went up there, but I literally didn't miss a week. So it started off as me answering questions for homeowners and DIYers, because that's where I thought the need was. Very quickly, the industry found it and they said, oh, listen, homeowners, you're going to need to step aside. This is for the contractors now. And so literally it's just been for other paint business owners now. Wow. So everything I've done over the last decade on social media has literally been for people like me and people in the industry like this. And almost none of my clients know it exists. So I don't have this crazy like competitive advantage of all my leads come because I'm this Ask a Painter guy. Even my employees, I'll do a interview with somebody and they'll see my face logo on the wall. They're like, oh, that's weird. It's a cartoon picture of you. It's like, well, it's actually the logo for this 9-year social media show. They're like, really? You do social media? I'm like, wow. What a crazy world this is. Like, I don't expect you to know this, but you're interviewing for this company and you're in the painting industry. It's weird that we haven't at some point tripped over each other. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, I basically ask and answer questions. It's about coding science, application, and entrepreneurship. And honestly, if you look at the last 5 years and watch every single show that I've done, you can see me grow from 0 to 40 people. Every single week is a progression. And I portray in my mind being present exactly what happened. So if you got 500 extra hours coming up, you just sit there and watch it, put them on repeat and just watch them.
And you give you the whole playbook.
Yeah, you'll see the whole arc.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Man, I have so many questions. I'm like, we're probably gonna have to bring Nick back again and just do this. But I do have one. You keep seeing empathy.
Yeah.
Can you touch base on empathetic listening, both on your employees and your customers? Because I feel like this also in the industry is not talked about a lot. Yeah. And I'd love to hear your thought process on that for your employees, but also to any entrepreneurs that are coming to people's homes too, right? I think that's important to touch base on because a lot of people are just there for the number and they're not empathizing on people's situations and how we can help them still win for their homes.
Yeah, empathy is a thing that I will put myself up. I will boast about this because I feel comfortable boasting about this. Nobody had less empathy than me in the entire universe for any of this stuff years ago. At one point, I wanted to be that crusty, grumpy old master craftsman that everybody hated, but he was so damn good you couldn't but work. I thought, God, what a hallmark. I love characters I love those weirdos in Alta, the welder like that. You hate talking to him, but he's so good, you know? I love interacting with those characters. That is horrible. That is a bad idea. If you want to be anything more than a crusty old grumpy craftsperson who does really good work, the second you bring on an employee, they don't care about that. And in fact, they consider you a horrible human if you don't have a modicum of empathy. So interestingly enough, I was forced to come to terms with being empathetic years ago as I had 35 employees, right? You just can't help but be empathetic. And it took a lot of self-discovery and a lot of therapy and a lot of performance coaching to get over the fact that because not everybody thinks like you or wants the same things in life or has the same work ethic as you, it doesn't mean they're bad people. These are amazing humans. And for many, many years, upfront and honest, guys, I thought everybody who couldn't do a 98 out of 100 and work 100 hours a week was a lazy fool and they weren't worthy of any of this stuff. And that's a horribly regressive mindset that held me back from just about everything I ever wanted to do. And the second that I took ownership of that and said, this is my problem. These are great human beings. You cannot treat other people like this. Then the decent human being theory came along at that, which is, no, we're just looking for decent human beings. Wow. We're not looking for Olympic athletes. We're not looking for world-class politicians and people like that. We're looking for the great humans that we all interact with. And if some of them are outliers, that's great, but you can't build a business on that. And certainly you applying your wishes in life to other people, you may think that that's inspiring. Like, hey, employee who's 18 years old and I hire you, why wouldn't you want to be a partner in a paint business? He's like, dude, I don't have a spouse. I don't have kids. I don't yet own a car. I don't yet own a house. You're talking stuff miles down the road. This is what you want for me. It's not what I want for me. I want a kayak. I want freedom. I want to be in wilderness. I want to backpack through Europe. And I'm like, you should be a partner in a paint business and think about equity and things like this. And That is foolish. And I thought it was aspirational. So interestingly enough, that's the employee side of it. But there's also the client side, which, if I'm being honest, only this year have I started really leaning into that. We've done a basic amount of empathy towards clients, but we haven't been intentional. This is one of the benefits of the decent human being system. You take my 2 estimators, and if they are decent human beings, they're going to portray empathy towards a client. But we need to take the next step. So what I did, I called my 5 friends from the PCA who had insanely big sales organizations. They sent me their training manuals, their SOPs, the books that they based them on. I synthesized it all, and I found out that at least 3 of the 5 of the companies intentionally ask a client with outright words, what is your biggest pain point with this? And what is your biggest priority with this? They write it down. They pick something out of their company that they already do that serves this point, write it down, and tell the client. So to prove that we're actually taking care of your pain points, that we're listening to you, and we are aligned on what's most important to you. We literally started that formal process last week. And I went back into the field with my young Doge team to teach them this. And I have been physically asking. I've changed the way I estimated after 18 years. I went back and now I physically ask the clients what's most important to you. And I suss it out. I call it out on the estimate, and then I remind them of it. So even now, old dogs, new tricks.
Wow.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that, because that's
step
huge.
1.
Yeah.
There's 6 other things I want to add to my estimating process, but a good scientific experiment is you add one thing, and we're leading with, I believe that the empathy and the understanding the pain points is the low hanging fruit and the thing we can do the best. And that's what we did first.
Wow. See, guys, I think that's so important, because like, seriously, like I've been saying this for years. It's like empathetic listening is so important. And, especially in sales, like everyone follows a script and does these things, but where's that connection with the humanity? Right. And I think that goes a long way. So I appreciate you sharing that, the theory, and obviously hitting that point.
Dude, nobody's had more head trash about sales than me, because every time somebody's like, sales training, oh, I'm a good salesperson, I'm like, you greasy bastard. I want nothing to do with you. Everything you hear about these psychological tricks, get them to say yes a whole bunch. Here's overcoming objections. Like, I don't want to overcome I want to listen to my people, right? And there's this whole theory I was presented to by a great sales organization is be the guide, not the hero. Be the Yoda, not the Skywalker. Like, be there to ask them a question, reiterate the question to see if we're aligned, and then guide them down the path. Don't stand there and say, well, listen, here, this is what we got to do. This is what you're going to need to do with this, right? It's more of like, no, what do you want of this? And then here's our processes. Can we fit those to that? And I've done a lot of that naturally, but now I'm teaching it to my team, and now we have to put it down in an SOP. And it's interesting to take all that experience, stuff that we would naturally do as salespeople, and maybe inculcate that. Because I've done probably 6,000 to 8,000 estimates in my life. My people have not. They've done a ton of them. They have not done that much. And you just assume some things that happen. And it's a lot of fun. I couldn't agree more with you. And it's a new adventure for us.
That's awesome.
I love the perspective we're getting, because it's so different than, probably our typical guests, right? We're more like entrepreneur tactics, and Nick's just like, bro, just listen to people, be a decent human, and you'll be all right, So I love that.
This is a strategy. It feels biologically good to me. It fulfills me. It gives me energy to be nice to other humans. I love harmony in everything. But also it's a great business strategy in this industry right now. Now, when this industry actually professionalizes and is not so fragmented, this may be the only differentiator that we have. If everybody can give you an estimate in an hour, if everybody uses great software, if everybody has a standard operating procedure and a metric-based bidding system, you may only be left with human connection. So it's like, I'm prepping for when AI takes over. And I was just telling my young Doge team in the car, they're like, Nick, what happens when people just do artificial intelligence estimates and all that? And I say, you know what? There's going to be a niche in the market for, guess what? We don't even own a computer. I write everything in cursive, and a human comes to your house. If that's what it takes, if that's the niche I fulfill, you are going to get charged 3x to paint your house. But I am going to personally come out there and handwrite you an estimate, and I'll sit there for 3 hours with you. If there's a niche for that, I will fulfill it.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I got a retreat coming up for you. Nick Slavik, retreat with Nick Slavik.
Yep.
What's that about?
It's an excuse for me to go to a lodge with all my friends. No, so again, along the line of genuine human connection, to me, there's like levels in the industry, which is there is like dudes I know from Facebook and Instagram, right? And we have these great connections. I was messaging with one this morning. I've never met in person. I've never seen before. We've been literally messaging. Our connected live lives online for years and years and years.
Some of the best guys.
Fact, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That is a connection. That is a connection, right? Next thing you know, you go to a PCA event and you become friendly and you go face to face, and that is everything in the world, right? It changes everything about that human dichotomy right there. Then there are levels of other things where, yes, you're going to have some great hallway conversations at the PCA Expo and the other events, but I wanted something more. I wanted something where we didn't have to sit through an education session, where we literally just, you stand up, you have 1 hour and a whiteboard. You do not get a PowerPoint presentation. We're in a luxury lodge that is one of the finest crafted homes in America. Wow. It's a compound that expands across the road, tennis court, 4 buildings, lake access, and all this other stuff. And we have a private chef, we have a yoga instructor, we have all this pretentious stuff in order to justify to get all my friends there. And you get 1 hour to stand up and use us for whatever you want, as a think tank, as first principle reasoning. And people have done all sorts of amazing things. Wow. We've had recently 2 people who met at my retreat just join forces together and join their businesses. And maybe it would have happened otherwise, but they met at my retreat, and I'm going to take partial credit for that. So,
as you should.
It's a time where you're away from your business, you're away from your family, you're all living communally. The meals are prepared for you, and we sit around and we have time to cascade depth of thought. Where when we're in our businesses, when we're doing a podcast, we can have a thought, maybe a second or third order thought. When you're on day 3 of nothing burdening you except for listening to another human and asking questions and offering advice, you can have a 15th order thought that you never would have had before. Life-changing decisions have been made at these, and it might be the hallmark of my professional career is this. I've had some of the most touching moments in my life at these retreats, and some we talk about publicly, many we don't, because that's just for us retreaters, and that's something that we hold special.
I'll add that to your next intro the next time we hop on the pod.
I love it.
Man, I just want to say thank you for coming on and making the time. I know you're a busy guy, and me and Joel are super excited.
Too. We're all busy, man.
We're all busy, right? But yeah, I guess I can speak for me and Joel to just say thank you. It was a fun episode, and I want people to know that they can find you. So if you don't mind kind of rattling down any of the ways they can reach out to you or find you or anything you have.
If you type my name into a computer, you will find it somewhere. You will trip over something. So obviously, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff is good. That's where you're going to find most of my stuff. And if you're in our industry, it's only a matter of time before you trip over one of my videos. So
yeah, all great stuff too.
No, thanks, guys. This is a great conversation. You guys are really good at this.
Thank you. You make it easy, Nick.
Yeah, right. And we usually end on a quote, so I'll hand the mic to my man Joel.
So since Nick kept saying simplicity, simplify, all I kept hearing was simple, and I love that because I always talk about those things. My favorite quote from Bruce Lee, I know it's not painting, but it says simplicity is the key to brilliance.
I like that.
So we'll end it on that. Nick Slavik, thank you so much. You are the man, and we will talk soon.
Appreciate you guys.